Remembering to talk about the book when you're talking about the book is very important. Hey, thank you for joining the Escape With Me book club. Escape with me, Sam Reiner.
And me, Caitlin.
Into our most recent read. Come with us as we evade reality and go into detail about a new book. We'll be covering the book from beginning to end, so there will be spoilers. Today we are going to Ancient Greece. Published April 6, 2021, Go the Distance is the 11th installment of the Disney Twisted Tales series, and the third book in the series written by Jen Calonita. With a decent book and a blatant dud, will this be the redemption the author needs?
No, it wasn't. Sorry.
So, background, watched Hercules movie growing up a ton. The music is everything, just facts. The music is absolutely everything.
Yeah, well, it's literally been all over Instagram and TikTok as like a background noise lately, like as a sound clip, because it's just so freaking good.
It's always good.
French horns, man.
Gospel singers.
And that.
So yeah, and then you, of course, you get into middle school, high school, and everyone's edgy, and it's like, that's not the real story.
Oh yeah.
Like you can do with every Disney movie.
Your Disney versus your Percy Jackson era, big difference.
Yeah. So, but still, like, really enjoy it. I love Meg. Meg is pretty top.
I remember once talking to you because I love Meg's song, right? Meg's solo song is so good. And you told me once that apparently there was an alternate version or a second song that she had that they didn't release, but came out eventually on something that you liked so much better because it was more true to her character or something. Do you remember that?
Oh, goodness. So she did have a different song. When we first became friends, I was in my alternate Disney phase. And so the ones that still stick with me, 10 years later. Dancing on the Cloud, I like better than So This Is Love in Cinderella. And I remember a lot of the Frozen songs. My friend was obsessed with those. And there is a Megara song that's different. And I can't remember at this point. If you said I said it, I probably did, but I can't remember exactly what it was. I know I liked it, but I don't know if it was like, oh, I wish it would have replaced it, or if it was, I wish they had made room for both.
Yeah, I can't remember, but Meg is just so sassy, and the idea of the song of I Won't Say I'm in Love, and then of course the muses make literally every song so much better.
So good.
And how they're bouncing back and forth. Yeah. But like you said, the music for Hercules is everything. And I do feel like something that's lost in this book that other books that have had movies with music is that they didn't reference the music all that much. Like they didn't tie in lyrics, and they did tie in catchphrases and like phrases from the film. I caught that with Phil and Hades, but I don't think they referenced a lot of the songs.
No, for all Liz's faults, she always referenced the song. She had several quotes in the dialogue. In Beauty and the Beast, they were several of the title heads, the chapter headings.
Yeah.
So it's definitely made references. Elizabeth Lim made references in Cinderella, not so much on Mulan, but it worked out the way she did it. So, but anyway, yeah, she doesn't really, there's a lot of things she doesn't do. But before we get into that, age level, young adult, and content warning, death of a parent, child abuse in the form of parentification, blood, monsters, graphic violence, death of a child, death of a spouse, kidnapping, and, just general themes of death.
Yeah, a lot.
Judge a book by its cover.
I do love this cover.
It's a very pretty cover. There's so many items on it that could be symbolic, and just it could be all over the place. So once again, I'm just like, oh, it's Hercules, but Meg. But having read the book, I didn't expect cover to be so literal. I don't know why. A lot of the other covers are very literal, like the Alice in Wonderland, where you had the different things in the background, like the camera and stuff. But yeah, no, the cover does a very good job of being like, this is exactly what this is.
I'm looking at it, though. I don't see any reference to Phil, though.
That is true. Maybe it's just an assumed.
And I know Hades comes in at the end, and he's there.
He's the villain. They're like half and half. Do we put the heroine on here, or do we put the villain on here? I think they could have used Meg, because Meg has an obvious enough profile. I mean, they use her on the
the vase
pottery.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Hades, I guess, was there a lot in flashbacks. But the amount of time he was in the book of him actually influencing the events of the book, I mean, that was only like the last fourth of it. Or at least that's what it felt like to me, because this was a much shorter book comparatively. So having him be such an imposing figure when he didn't make a whole lot of, I mean, I guess he did make a whole lot of impact in the plot, but it felt like he came in a lot later than you'd think with how imposing he is on the cover.
Yeah, he's the antagonist, but I don't know, villains make things happen, and villains are the reason stories happen and you need heroes, but Hades isn't the reason that this book happens.
No.
He's just in the background making it worse.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to say it. That's what I meant.
But yeah, I am very bummed.
Yeah. And I noticed myself writing this more and more as I was making comments on your outline, was that my definition of it, the word that keeps coming up, is whiplash. I just kept getting whiplash from the characters and the personalities and what the heck the plot line of the book was. And I just feel like I kept getting turned back and forth, and there was never any settling.
And it doesn't help that she has inconsistency problems.
Yes.
And continuity issues. For example, there's a character named Cassia, and she's supposed to be this amalgamation of characteristics between the mom and the dad. And so she has blonde hair, like a round nose, dimple, looks like her parents. And one of the lines is she has her father's dark eyes, except his eyes are green. It's things like that where you can't even keep the character straight. Here's my actual bone to pick with this book. If this was just like a random book, it's okay. Like, it's a little Greek mythology vibes.
Yeah.
My problem is it's Meg. And you can tell from the very beginning of the book that the author doesn't understand Meg's character.
Oh my gosh. A little background. At one point when I started listening to the book, because again, I listen to all of these as audiobooks, I just can't sit down and physically read anything anymore. I texted you and I was like, I can't tell if I hate the character or the narrator, because I did not like the narrator either. She just made Meg sound like such a whiny, and this is something I've noticed with a lot of the portrayals of the women from the audiobook, the voice actors, is they just make the girls sound so whiny. And so I texted Sam and I was like, I don't know if I don't like the character or the narrator. And she said, it's both. And I just went, oh no, because I was only in like the first 2 chapters of the book and I was already so frustrated with this character.
I can't even be mad at the voice actress because that's how the author writes the character.
Yeah.
We start off and it starts at the end of the movie. And first of all, just random Meg background for a prologue.
Yeah.
But Hercules becomes a god, and, you know, in the movie, he becomes a god, and Meg's like, congratulations, hero, or whatever she says. I know I can't be with you now. I knew that. It's a bittersweet moment for Meg where she's like, I can't be a hero, and I don't expect you to give this up for me. That's not even a thought she has. So it's this bittersweet but strong, independent woman moment where we had some fun. I'm glad you got to do what you wanted to do. Anyway, it's a very self-sacrificing moment, though.
Yeah, because she recognizes how her purpose was to destroy his path, right? She was accepting that he saved her and he did this monumental, heroic thing, but she didn't feel like she had the right to expect anything more from him. So she was just going to quietly bow out.
And she has abandonment issues and expected, oh, I have this new shiny toy. Of course I'm going to forget about you. But she wasn't bitter about it. And so it's all this emotion in one line, in one gesture, in one expression. And the author decides in Meg's mind that she's mentally crying and begging him not to go.
Yeah.
What? And this sniveling, mood swinging, annoying character is what we get for this whole book.
Yeah.
This author doesn't know how to write a strong, independent woman character.
And this is where it comes down to. She doesn't know how to reconcile a woman who can be strong and work through her father issues. And that's why they give you the prologue is a setup. She has abandonment issues that go back even before the flame that left her, which obviously we get more information about that, but it goes back to her father abandoned her and then her mother instilled all these lessons. That's fine. That happens to a lot of people. There are a ton of young female readers that can probably empathize with that happening to them.
I am a strong, independent woman with parental issues.
Same. I got daddy issues, fam, and I'm not afraid to talk about it, but I'm not like this. Oh my gosh.
She doesn't understand you can have trauma and still be a strong person.
Exactly.
Inside.
Yes.
Because Meg acts a certain way on the outside, which is the rectifying it with her internal monologue and her internal thoughts that are trash.
Yes, exactly. So she doesn't know how to balance those two.
Why did they give this to her?
I don't know. Like you said, one of the ones she did was really good. I forget which one it was, but
it was Snow White. And like I said, it's because there's a lot you can add, but the newer ones just can't. Anyway, so the change is when Hercules like, I'm gonna stay with Meg. Zeus is like, no.
Yeah, absolutely not. You just did all this work. Very typical dad, I'm not gonna let you give up your college ride for a girl.
It's a little funny, him being like, no, your relationship is nothing, says the dude who had like a bajillion children with Earth women. Like,
yeah, I love how they subtly tried to reconcile the demigod and actual Olympic lore versus what Disney portrays to you without being super on the nose about it.
come on. Disney Zeus is a great dad.
That's fair.
I love him. Real Zeus is not. And so, whatever. But yeah, he says no. And speaking of not understanding characters, so Zeus refuses. And at that moment, Phil and Pegasus just leave without saying anything to anybody. They just go. Have you met Phil?
Yeah.
There is not an argument within a mile of him that he doesn't get involved in.
Yeah, exactly.
But nope, if they were there, they would have to say words. And so I needed them to leave, but abruptly.
Peace out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, Meg and Zeus fight, and it's this weird Meg trying to pull, I know who you really are, except it's just random gossip she heard like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, that was not solid. That foundation was so not solid at all.
It was so weird. What are you doing? Anyway, so Hercules and Zeus start to get at it, and Hera walks over and she's like, why don't you just become a goddess?
I could do that for you.
Why don't you just do what Hercules did? We'll solve all the problems. I don't know why Hera keeps this a secret from Zeus.
Yeah, it was very much a let me handle him kind of moment. And you're just like, why do we... Honestly, this book, more than any of them, feels like Disney gave Jen the question, what if Meg had to become a Greek god? And said, figure out the plot.
Read the first draft and were like, perfect, print it.
Yeah, the other books, it seems like they thought, oh, this would be an interesting twist. What would happen if earlier on in the film or the story this thing happened? How would it resolve differently, right? Like that kind of thing. And then they figured out the question after the plot was written. This one literally feels like they gave her the question and said, write a plot that makes sense to this question. And it still doesn't, but that's what they did.
Maybe they looked at her outline and were like, okay, this sounds good. If they didn't read, it's so funny to me because I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, and if you know anything about Kingdom Hearts, Disney is so freaking picky, and it's one of the reasons the games take so long to develop, because even character eyesight lines need to be perfect. And so they need that to be perfect, and they need this other thing to be perfect, and they're so freaking picky. Ask anyone that's had to deal with Disney in any capacity. And then they publish books like this.
Yeah.
We have different levels, apparently.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Meg is going to have to come to terms with her past, which her past is her mom had some undiagnosed mental illness issues.
100%. And again, it stems from trauma. We get it, but it's a reason, not an excuse kind of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. And I had a thought. So her mom just acts rashly. And one day they have no money. They just barely have enough for food. And so instead of spending it on food, the mom buys Meg a flute.
Yeah.
Because, oh my gosh, you're going to become the most impressive flute player ever. And over the top, kind of. And then she gets proposed to by this really nice guy who's very wealthy and can take care of them. So they run away. They move to a new city to get away from this dude. And then soon after, she gets hit by a moving cart and she dies. And I'd be curious of your thoughts, because I said it sounds like she has borderline personality disorder.
Yeah. And that's why I mentioned borderline traits come from trauma, right? Like they come from these issues. And if this was the relationship that, her mom was in, I can't imagine what her home life. So it's this idea of just being afraid of commitment and having those really, again, whiplash relationships and all that kind of stuff.
You wonder if she was in an abusive relationship at one point, but she's so against being married, or maybe her parents' relationship was just that bad.
Yeah, well, and typically it comes from something happening earlier in childhood, but then the dad leaving them and having been so unstable while they were married probably just reinforced that idea. The only thing thing I would say against that is that there will be continuing volatile relationships without getting treatment, understanding, and when working through it, you're just going to continue trying to fill that gap and that void that's inside you. Because a lot of people with BPD, they describe it as they themselves can't exist if there's not another person to exist for, if that makes sense.
Which I feel like is what she's done with Meg.
Maybe, yeah.
And she does keep dating. That's one of the things she points out. And anytime that it gets serious, she runs away.
Yeah.
But specifically I bought a flute for my daughter to become the most amazing flute player in the world, not herself, makes me think that she was putting a lot of everything on Meg.
Yeah, for sure. Very irresponsible.
Very.
And then again, you mentioned it later, but the lessons that she hardwires in her, like you can only rely on yourself. You can't rely on other people. Don't trust a man, all that kind of stuff. It just obviously sets Meg up for failure and then for reinforcement when things understandably go wrong in your life as they do. That's the problem with black and white issues like that, is it leaves no room for understanding or interpretation when other events appear to reinforce that thought.
It's just a strong setup for confirmation bias.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So tough home life.
Tough home life. She does play the flute, by the way. That's just added in there. And I'm not against adding new stuff like that because that's a fun thought. But this woman has never played an instrument in her life. And her describing Meg playing an instrument,
I couldn't.
Is almost insulting.
I know. How many times did she say the line and she just went naturally to the Song of the Lily or whatever that stupid song was called? And it was the same line, like copy paste every time. That's my question for the end, is obviously you are not a musician. You do not consult musicians. You don't understand music, because the way you describe it, and I'm a flute player myself, so I'm more frustrated at this than you, because it's just, there's no words.
Yeah, she's just like, oh, she got into the music. She closed her eyes and it came to her. And I'm like, there are so many ways to describe playing music. It's so easily. You could just like, as she closed her eyes, she felt a connection as her hands moved with the song itself. She could feel her body reacting to the song. Musicians move.
Yes.
They don't just sit still and play the notes and, oh my gosh, it's amazing. No, there's a physical combination when the music takes over, when it's real good.
Yeah.
When the music takes control of your body and you move with it. Even orchestras, you can see them doing that.
Oh, yeah.
Get into the music. And if you have it memorized, you'll probably close your eyes to remember it. But like most of the times, you know, you're reading sheet music. And I swear this is the only song this woman knows, because there's, like you said, copy paste.
Yes.
And I naturally went to the Song of the Lily over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. She was described as being a very good musician and playing alongside Aegis and all kind of stuff. You know, she has other songs. And yes, this song is a comfort to her. It has meaning for her. It is something that harkens back to her past. And that's what she's working on throughout the whole novel.
Except she hates her past. Why are you bringing it up?
Yeah. It even explained the complicated emotions that she has about this song better. You don't even do that well. This is the song that helped her and her mother come out of poverty, that anchored her in these moments, but also that had the complicated emotions that she had about her mom. But no, it's just, and I naturally went back to it and I'm like,
It supposedly has meaning to her, but where? Who? When? Never. In this book? What are you talking about? And when it just keeps coming up and it's so, ugh.
Yeah, it's like an inconvenient plot crutch where they rely on something.
Yeah.
But it's weirdly used inconveniently. And so guess what? That's what she's got to do. She's got to go find a flute.
Yes, she has to find Athena's double flute. Aeolus, my guess is. And so she gets an hourglass to show how much time she has left, and is told the name of an island, and Hercules gives her this flower that has 3 petals, and he's like, oh, you pull it off and you can call him.
It was like an orchid or something, yeah.
And Pegasus, even though Pegasus left with Phil, why are we talking about Pegasus? Anyway, and as you pointed out, a slingshot.
Yeah, here's a slingshot. That'll help defend you against monsters. Excuse me, what? A freaking slingshot?
It's not a great move because there are some kind of intuitive weapons, you know, knife, stab the thing. They don't have them yet. Gun can mess it up, but you pull a trigger. Slingshot, you need to practice. That's like a bow and arrow. You need to practice.
And literally later in the book, she is described as very good with a bow and arrow because Phil questions her, and it literally, the line is, and she knocked the arrow perfectly and pulled the string back. Why? Why then did you give her a slingshot? You know your strength thanks, Meg. Ask for a bow and arrow.
Nope. Oh, goodness. So, you know what I hate? And it kept happening and it bothered me every single time. So we have Meg, right? And I'm okay with the idea of I like giving people nicknames because I don't take anything seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's down. I'm cool. Peg.
Yeah.
We have Meg and Peg, and I hate it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's so bad. I hate it. Every single time she said it, I was just nails on chalkboard, dislike. What are you doing? So Pegasus doesn't like her. Meg doesn't really like him. She's still scared of heights.
Which that's consistent from the film. Glad they at least started on that note.
Yay, bare minimum. So eventually they have a relationship and it works out and whatever. Fine. I didn't find that particularly interesting. So they go to this island and they meet an Impusa playing the instrument. She looks like a beautiful woman, but actually she's a bat creature because, you know, Greek mythology, everything's a beautiful woman until it reveals itself.
Yeah.
Don't trust beautiful women. Anyway, alpha bros of ancient Greece, which is funny because we bring up the slingshot and she immediately loses it.
Yeah, immediately.
Also her flute, but you know she's gonna go flute back, so that wasn't so much. But she's just throwing bones because, you know, the place is filled with bones because she eats people, even though who gets out that way? How do you have enough?
No, you're right. And this is again where you could have stuck with Meg's characteristic that she is a self-sufficient woman. And instead you went with she throws bones because she's the incompetent girl who looks over her shoulder when running and trips. Why? You talk about it later. It's in the film. She was a minion for Hades. When we meet her in the film, she's being wrestled and strong-handed by a centaur.
Water spirit thing.
And I truly believe when she says, I had it handled, I was going to be fine, you believe that about her.
Yeah, which, by the way, is brought up in this book, and is not great.
Yeah, they make her just this helpless, she managed to get out through luck. And that's all it is.
You know what it is? It's attempting to make Meg an underdog. And not to say that Meg doesn't have room to be an underdog. She absolutely does. She is a mortal trying to become a god.
Yeah.
What is more underdog than that? But it's this underdog personality that she's given, where she has to be down on her luck, where she has to be bad at this. She could be bad at fighting here, because the whole point is I need Phil. I need Phil to train me. She absolutely could suck at fighting here and it not come across as, I mean, it's a little incompetence because she doesn't know what she's doing, but there's a way to balance, wow, I have no practical fighting experience, but I have intuition. I have something to work with here. I just need to work on the skills themselves.
Yeah.
Not this.
They kind of do it with her thinking about the cave and bashing in the cave to kill the input. That little bit right there is exactly what you're describing of, I'm not a good fighter, but I do have the right instincts, right? That is what she did. She was on Pegasus and she got him to go into a cave and do a runabout and then make the cave in. That was smart. That was intuitive.
Yeah.
But everything that came before that of the Impusa in the cave and trying to run and not knowing where to go and the constant, like I say later, whiplash of I am so great and I don't need anybody's help to, wow, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm worthless. Oh my gosh, I can't handle it.
She has like, what, a week?
Yeah, maybe 10 days, I think.
So Meg decides she needs to go get Phil, except Phil was a montage with Hercules. It took forever to train him. And you're going to waste time with him. You don't have enough time to train. You need, oh well. Of course he doesn't want to help.
Yeah.
Until she's like, but I did manage to get the double flute. And he's like, maybe we have something to work with here. And so she spends an entire day recovering from the fight. And back to it's really dumb that she always plays the Lily song. She just refuses to play a flute, period.
Yeah.
Phil has to convince her to play it, and then Athena pops up listening to the flute. So she has issues with playing a flute at all, but she doesn't have an issue playing that song.
Yeah.
Incorrect. But anyway, Athena pops up and she's like, hey, so you need to save your ex-boyfriend's wife from the underworld.
Yep.
And earlier in the book, you hear that Persephone is missing. And so I thought it was going to be you needed to go and save Persephone.
Yeah, that was definitely a smoking gun they set off immediately. And so you know Persephone's going to come back in at some point.
Somewhere. Smoking gun for sure. But This gives the Aegis flashback, and we can talk about the story in general, but I'm not a fan.
Of what?
So in the movie, which these are based off of, I guess she is trying to pull in more Greek mythology, but in the movie, she's dating this guy, something happens, and she trades her soul to save him, and then he just bounces at the first girl. Well, in this book, Aegis got really sick. She prayed to literally every god she could think of. Hades was the only one that responded and was like, hey, if you give me your soul, then I'll save him. And then he takes her to the underworld, where one of the first things he says is, time is weird here.
Yep.
And then he shows her a portal of Aegis being lovey-dovey with a blonde woman that's really pretty. And that's what causes her deep-rooted men issues.
Yeah, so when he brings her down, he shows her this vision-esque of the smoke. And I think she was trying to describe the smoke harkening back to the way they did it in the movie. But he shows her this vision of Aegis like running through the square and talking to people and obviously trying to find her. And Hades used that hook to get her to work for him for that week, right? And look, he's trying to find you. You need to get back to him as soon as possible. So I need you to do these things for me in this time frame. And again, bringing it the point that time works differently. He did sprinkle that in there. And then, she does her work and she comes back and he shows her with Calonita, which again is a similar thing in the film. Like you see the smoke figure of him chasing after the girl. And she's heartbroken because it just, again, confirmation bias reinforces what her mom taught her, that you can't rely on people, you can't rely on men, all that kind of stuff. But then there's no piecing it together. There's no, well, I still did my time for you, so I'm not going to work for you anymore. Obviously, they can't change that factor, right? But nothing. It just seems like she just lies over and just decides to keep working with Hades and believes that what he said was true, which obviously Hercules comes back and is like, really? Was that the best person to put your trust in?
Yeah. Can we talk about don't trust men, except I'm going to trust Hades?
Yeah. I mean, he's a god.
Still, she doesn't trust Hercules and he's a demigod. Anyway, I've always thought that's a little weird that she's like, don't trust men, except that this one specific one that is telling me.
Yeah, totally telling you the 100% truth.
100% not. He would have no reason to lie to me ever. Anyway, so that's the whole Aegis plot. What actually happened is she just disappeared. He got better. She disappeared. And it was like 2 years, I want to say, that he looked for her.
Yep.
Before finding love again. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so shocked. And I hate it even more is because they show up and he's like, oh my gosh, you're alive. And I don't know, she just takes it and she's just super rude to him and then walks away and Phil has to be like, my girl.
Yeah.
And then she comes back and he tells her the story and she's like, oh my gosh. And it just makes her seem like a hysteric overreactor.
Yep.
Because up until this point, what would inform her character to do that?
Yeah.
Meg is a cool, calm, and collected cucumber. What is happening?
Yep.
He has a little baby girl now.
Super cute.
You had so many comments about that.
Yeah, it was so funny.
What were some of them? Oh yeah, Aegis gives her the rattle that the baby loves, and you were like, you giving away the one thing that calms her down. What are you doing?
No, when Meg stole it, when Meg took it with her on her quest, I'm like, you used this rattle to put this child to sleep, and then you take it away? How dare, like, I have my own 5-month-old right now, and I'm like, if someone took her one and only pacifier from me, I would kill them. Are you kidding me right now, Meg? Come on. Yeah, but no, I loved the whole Phil being a babysitter. That was pretty cute.
The best babysitter.
Yeah, and then when she comes back in and she's like starting to talk loud and Phil's like, shut up, I just put the baby down. I was like, oh, same, Phil. I get it. I get it so much. And I love how they reference a couple times that she's not a good sleeper and, she needs a lot of help and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, this little interaction I like. Phil is the best godfather.
Of all the characters, he's probably my favorite in the book. I guess his character made sense to the author. I don't know.
Yeah, she stayed the most consistent with him.
Yeah. Also, she runs away from literally everyone. Everyone can get under her skin so easily. Whatever. Hercules is the one that, like you said, has to point out that Hades is a lying liar who lies.
Yeah.
Whatever. Here's one thing I want to bring up, and I wish more people would talk about it. Meg's mom has told her, always trust your instincts, which seems like solid advice. Until you realize Meg's instincts are trash.
Yeah.
Don't trust them. If your gut instinct is to do one thing, do the opposite. I wish someone was out here telling people that if your gut instincts are trash, don't follow them.
Yeah, we call that emotional reasoning. Just because your body tells you you're feeling something doesn't mean it's right. I'm all for the emotions are valid movement because most of the time they are, but you also need to realize your emotions can be manipulated. You may be feeling this emotion, but you need to recognize that that emotion might be coming from a place of misunderstanding or manipulation or you not understanding what's going on, right? Yes, it is valid that that's the emotion you're experiencing in the moment, but it doesn't mean it accurately reflects the situation.
Or that you should listen to it.
Yeah. So I can't quite remember the moment that I put in this thing. I put it on her that he searched for 2 years. And I said, insert the Nicolas Cage. Like, you don't say mean for Meg. She made some comment or whatever.
I think it was about Hades.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you don't say, ma'am. Come on. It does not take an intelligent person to piece that together.
Like I said, I just find it so fascinating. Don't trust any man except Hades.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? So it's Greek mythology, so they have to follow a river to get there, which, by the way, they both suck at it. Oh, and by the way, Hercules taught Meg to sail?
Yeah.
When did Hercules learn to sail?
I don't know. I'm assuming it's just a skill he had.
Just based on the movie, I mean, Greece is surrounded by water, so many islands.
Yeah.
Do we ever see him in a boat?
No.
He traveled across the lands, unless I'm missing something in that montage, but it seems like he walked really far, got to the temple, and then at the temple he got Pegasus so he could fly everywhere.
Yeah.
This boy couldn't even play disc golf in the marketplace. Who's giving him a boat? Anyway, so thankfully Hercules taught her how to row a boat. I don't know. I feel like Meg would be more likely to know that, beside the point. So they go down the river and a waterfall, because of course they did.
Yeah.
When Hermes shows up and is like, hey, I have a gift from you from Athena. It's a bow and arrow, since you immediately lost your slingshot.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it's totally fine that he gave him a bow and arrow because my mom was good with the bow and arrow. Of all the flashbacks, didn't want to even mention she bow and arrow?
Yeah.
She's not talking about Artemis gonna go hunting in the woods so they have food to eat?
Yeah.
No. Okay, we'll just throw that in there. Screw continuity.
Plot convenience.
So they pass a meadow with golden apples that Hades loves, and Meg's like, I'm gonna go get some to negotiate, and Phil's like, hey, that seems pretty suspicious.
Yep.
Just a random golden apple farm with a fence around it. Maybe you shouldn't. And Meg is like, nah, and then gets attacked by an angry bird mob.
Yep.
You work in the underworld. How do you not know about this?
Yeah. Again, the trope that the female lead won't listen to anyone's advice, makes things worse, and then she needs saving in the end. Yeah, it was good advice to listen to him and be like, yeah, that looks like a trap. There's a reason Hades can't get these apples all the time because they're hard to get. Why is that, fam? Don't do it.
I'm also a little surprised he didn't send her at some point to get the golden apples. If not to get the golden apples, but also for kicks and giggles.
Yeah, maybe.
He seems like a jerk. But yeah, it's a whole thing. And Meg and Phil and Pegasus are getting attacked to the point where it's pretty dire, and Hercules shows up and helps them out, which is really important because she's about to freaking die.
Literally gonna die.
And she pulls the I had it under control, which I hate even more because you know what that does? It undermines what she said with the water spirit centaur. That's what she said of the water centaur spirit. And she was like, I have it under control. And we being like, wow, you actually seem to have had it under control. That's weird that you did, but okay. No.
Yeah.
Not in this book.
Yep. And you're just so defensive about it that you can't step out of your own way. And again, I know all people aren't healed, and I know defensiveness is like a real response and everything. But again, consistency. Earlier in the book, he showed up and helped her out. She called him to help her out. Why this time that he shows up and explains that Hera wanted him to, not because he chose to, that's the time she gets pissed off that he came in to help.
Yep.
Why?
And she's so mean to him.
I know.
Hercules, why do you want this?
throws the orchid into the river that obviously symbolizes death. Like, come on. And then he leaves and she's immediately regretful. And that's supposed to make it all okay that she's sorry? No, sir.
No. That happens in real life, and you're like, that still doesn't mean you're not the jerk.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'm so mad about it because you could totally have a lesson about, hey, you're strong, independent, rely on my own self, except A, your instincts suck, and B, we're human beings and we rely on each other, period.
Yeah, and that's the lesson she's supposed to be learning. Literally, in the next thing, Aphrodite comes in to explain, no, you're missing the point.
Which Aphrodite, of all people, giving a lesson on that is hilarious to me.
I know.
Don't you have a husband to cheat on? What you doing here? You need to trust other people. Whatever.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh that Athena sent Aphrodite to talk sense into Meg.
I know.
And guess what? One conversation is all she needs.
Yep.
To change her entire viewpoint on life.
Oh no, the gods work with mortals all the time. That's all the proof you need that we have to exist together. Oh, I want to call the bull flag so hard. Ugh.
You hate the gods. Why are you trying to imitate them? It's pretty rough. I hate it. It's like, if we're gonna go this vein, why is one conversation all you need?
Yeah.
Oh well. So they get to the river Styx, underworld. And so the legend goes that when a person dies, you put drachma on their eyes so that they can pay the toll of the river Styx. Why they actually did that was because, your eyes can pop back open after you're dead and stay like that, especially in rigor mortis, and it is creepy.
Yeah.
So they would put coins on the eyes. Now, some societies would sew them shut, this, that, and the other thing. But they get to the river Styx, and madam, I only trust myself, who just recently, like 20 minutes ago, had a life change, gets there and expects that Phil was going to bring the drachma.
Yep. Makes no sense. Why?
Continuity.
Yeah. You knew I was going to go to the underworld. Why didn't you bring me this? Ma'am.
You knew that you were going to have to go to the underworld.
Yeah. Why didn't you ask for one? Come on.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, I worked for Hades. I was not making a salary. I need some help here. Ugh, whatever. She promises to play the flute. Okay. Gets across to the underworld, plays Cerberus to sleep because, of course. Oh, yeah. All she does to play for Cerberus, to play well, is forget about him, focus on giving the best performance of your life, and that's it. That's all she says about playing music.
Yeah. How many times in this book have you given the, quote, best performance of your life? Because that's the only way this author knows how to describe it. I will say, I made a comment here. When she took the rattle, my first thought was, oh my gosh, because the rattle helped soothe the baby to sleep. I was like, is she going to use this rattle for Cerberus? Is that how she's going to make this 3-headed dog fall asleep?
That would be so funny.
I thought that would have been hilarious. Now, I will say the flute makes way more sense, even taking into consideration Greek mythology and everything, right? But, oh man, I was convinced that's what this rattle is going to be used for.
It's so funny. That's not what it ends up being used for. Yeah, she just plays him to sleep. So she gets out, and there's an elevator.
Apparently.
Which I have so many thoughts about, but she goes in, there's stairs in an elevator. She tries to go into the elevator instead of the stairs, which is apparently secret coding for take the stairs because it just takes her to Hades. And this whole time it's been built up like, if I go in the underworld, he's gonna know I'm there. It's so bad.
Immediately shows up.
Immediately shows up. And can we just give props to Hades for being a villain? Because no one else is acting in character, which granted, he's not going to act in character again in a second, but
yeah,
at least with Meg, he feels right.
Well, and this was the one place where she copy pasted him from the movie, right? Where she brought in all this stuff, how he introduces her and uses all those adjectives to describe her, like my little nutmeg, right? That's all exactly language lifted from the movies. That was her attempting to pull that in, talking about his blue hair and how he explodes into the flames and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'll give you props for trying to pull that in when you didn't really pull anything else in anywhere else.
Yeah, except turn right around.
Yeah.
And just went from Disney Hercules to Lore Olympus because, oh my gosh, Persephone's there and he's so in love with her. He would do anything for her. He's so sweet and kind with her.
Yeah.
What whiplash. Of all the whiplashes that you have mentioned, that is the most whiplashy of whiplash, and I hate it.
Yeah.
There's no character progression there. He just is automatically so in love with her.
Yes. And obviously they've been together before and she's been around and blah, blah, blah. So you're meant to step in media res to their relationship. But I'm sorry. There is research out there about certain Disney villains like Hades and Ursula and all these kind of stuff being the queer flipping representation in Disney and all this kind of stuff and intentionally being written as representation. And I've I've seen so many things of like the quote of Hades talking to Meg, and he's a guy. Like, why are you acting like this? And talking about Hades is the sassy gay friend trope kind of thing. And then you're going to try and convince me that that same blue-headed, razor-sharp teeth, gray-skinned god is in love and putting his arms around the waist of this girl. Nope, gives big ick.
No, you could absolutely have played the relationship and then him still be a villain.
Yeah,
whatever. She gets some medals and finds Katerina, except Katerina doesn't remember that she's a child in her life, and she wants to stay because she has a little sister named Layla. Also, there's a plot of Meg keep missing her mom.
Yeah.
It works out in the end, but it was a little annoying to me, honestly, just because it kept popping up and you're like, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? And then it doesn't happen. And you're like, cool, that was a lot of pages wasted in a very short book.
Yeah.
So Meg doesn't know what to do. There's a whole chapters and chapters and chapters of her not knowing what to do. Eventually she plays her flute and it reminds her of stuff because Aegeus's wife, Katerina, lost her little sister when she was young. And so she likes being in the underworld because she can be with her little sister.
Yep.
And so she doesn't want to leave and she doesn't remember if she's children. Anyway, Meg plays the song she's been playing this entire book. And oh my gosh, golly, that reminds me of Aegeus. I remember everything now, but I still don't want to leave. And then Layla's like, no, you should leave.
Yeah, and I don't know. I get you love your sister. I get your sister was taken from you early in life. But the implication is that Katerina has only been dead like a couple days, right? And as we know how time works, especially she would have like just gotten to the underworld and probably just found her sister. Then you canonically have a less than 1-year-old back on Earth with your husband.
Yeah, and Hades says that he didn't do it. He didn't erase Katerina's memories because Meg is like, you did this. And he's like, no, I didn't.
So I don't know. Either he's lying or maybe the gods erased it because her life was not supposed to be taken. It happened because of the Titan fight, right? Which we learn later.
Maybe she bumped her head, honestly.
But once you learn that that's what's waiting for you back in life and you're telling me that you're trying to convince me this woman wouldn't choose to go back.
Or at least talk to you more about it.
Yeah.
Because eventually she's like, even if that's true, I'm staying here.
Yeah.
Also, while she's here, she meets this woman that wants to plant flowers in the place to make the place look better. Because you're in the medium land. So in Greek mythology, everyone goes to the underworld, which, by the way, Hades isn't a villain most of the time. There are times where he will fight with Zeus because he got saddled with the underworld, which is a whole thing. And depending on what Persephone myth, he can be the villain too. But he's not the villain because he's associated with death. That was a very normal part of life. The ancient Egyptians also view death as an inevitable.
Yeah.
So there's a couple places you can go. You can go to the bad place, you can go to the good place, and you can go to the meh place.
Yeah.
Everything's good, but just slightly off. And I do think the book does a good job of representing that, where it's like, it's good, but...
Yeah, like the ladies who welcome her, where they're like, oh, well, you can never have that nice last sip of wine, or you're never quite full, you know? There's always just a little bit that's just being withheld from you.
Things are nice, but there's always traffic.
Yeah.
Or construction. So Persephone is wanting to spruce up the place. She doesn't know it's Persephone yet, but Meg gives her gardening advice. They talk about flowers, and so they bond. So Persephone ends up helping her later because we bonded.
Yeah.
Anyway, Meg promises Persephone that first of all, she comes up with the time split, apparently, and promises to plead her case to the gods. And so I can't. Hades is holding her hands and is like so scared he might not be able to spend time with her. No. What? Lies. I much prefer when Persephone shows off she's unhinged.
Yeah.
She's like, he's just in a mood. Isn't it so cute? He's just being murderous. That feels way better. But she pleads with Hera, and it takes no argument. Hera doesn't even try to argue back. She's just like, yep, that's a thing. Let's go talk to your mom.
Yep.
I can't. So Layla, the little girl, decides, hey, I'm going to bond with your mom because your mom's missing a daughter, and I'm missing a mom. And so that allows Katerina to give her up, in addition to the rattle and playing the song.
Wah wah.
So they get in the boat, but the hourglass has run out.
Yep.
This is where it's like, you can't play both games, because he does it in this scene. Persephone gets them a boat, but the hourglass ran out. And so Hades is like, haha, I'm going to try to keep you. And Persephone's like, no, they did good stuff for us. We should let them go. Give them a chance. And he's like, oh, well, for you, I will. And then as they're leaving, you can't look back, or you have to stay, and tempts them with all sorts of things. And one of them is the mom. So Meg yells to her and gets a little closure, but doesn't turn back. And so they're able to leave. It was such a weird scene. Why did Hades need more convincing than Hera did? Pick a lane. Are you in lovesick puppy dog mode, or are you whatever this is? I don't know. Anyway, Katerina is brought back to life. She's reunited with her family. Hera lets Hercules see Meg one last time before pulling a just kidding and making her a goddess.
Yep.
Hera, what are you doing? I don't think you know what you're doing with your life. I think you're just bored. Also, oh no, Cassia will be a great hero under Phil's tutelage one day.
Yeah, this is why she had to be saved, because she needs both of her parents to make sure she turns out to be the hero she really is fated to be. Okay. Come on.
What's he doing? Anyway, she becomes the goddess of vulnerability?
Yep. What does that even mean?
That's not how this works. And she works to help humans by giving advice?
Maybe. That's what it seems like.
No one's going to pray to you. What are you doing?
Yeah, she's like, I just happen to hear people in need. And honestly, it sounded like me as a therapist. I just listen to people in need. And sometimes people listen to me and take my advice. And I just try to make their lives better. And oh, goodness. Can I put that on my resume? God of vulnerability.
I hate it. Way to fumble it at the end. You were fumbling all the way through, but
I don't know what we expected.
Something good? Anyway, it could have been really cool, but then it wasn't. You didn't need to be goddess of the hunt, but I mean, could it be related to something that you did?
Yeah.
But Hercules and Meg, they're taking it slow before getting married. I have no idea what we're doing here.
Sure, why not?
Oh, I just gave up my entire humanity to be with you, but let's take it slow.
Yeah, right. You're a god now. Why wouldn't we, quote, get married?
I thought the whole point was to trust people and take a chance on them, and then you're like, nah. We were rushing into it to begin with. You became a goddess!
Yeah.
I became a goddess to have a chance of dating to maybe one day get with some girl. You sound ridiculous. Anyway, but that's it. That's the end.
Yep, bye.
For my knowledge, I want to know if they have different editors or it's the same editor, if it moves around a lot, because we are back to page number and titles. I think actually that might be the first time we've had that, page number and a title. But do you want to hear something weird? So I don't know how, but I was thinking about series that I read in middle school. Pretty obsessed with some of the series that I was reading at the time. And one series popped into my brain and I was like, oh, I should definitely look that up again. And it's a book series called Secrets of My Hollywood Life. And it's about a teenager who acts on a soap opera in Hollywood, and so her life working as an actress and all the stuff that comes with it. And I was obsessed with those books. I think I read most of them. And those were written by Jen Calonita. Those were her original works.
Really?
And so a part of me wants to go back and reread those, but I honestly just wonder if there's a type of character she's really good with, because Snow White reminds me a lot of that character, where she's young and naive and learning, but also has a little bit of gumption.
Yeah.
And she falls in love kind of easy. And so we see that, and she works really well with that, but then she's given, well, first of all, she copied the movie for Frozen, and I have so many questions about how that got accepted, approved, edited, didn't go like, no, you need to go back to the drawing board, or we're giving this to someone else. But yeah, I was obsessed with those books, and I'm just like, was I wrong? And I was just a middle schooler and I didn't have much reading experience, and so I was really easily impressed.
It's probably more that.
Or does she just suck now?
It was probably more that.
I really want to go back and reread it, though. I remember really liking those. So, weird connection with Jen Calonita. And so I feel a little weird being like, what are you... Oh, I don't feel weird about what are you doing, but...
Yeah.
Being like, you can't do this, but I don't know if you can do this, girl. What's her next one?
See, I was about to ask.
Suddenly Super seems more of her type of character than some of the others. So she has Suddenly Super, which did not release in the US, but I refuse to let that deter us. So suddenly super, and then in 2023 she posted on TikTok that she was writing a fifth one, but no one's heard anything of that. And of course she's in the anthology. So not too many to look forward to / worry about, but
yeah, we're actually about to start hitting some new authors, which I think is going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Although we have to go back to Liz, which, like I said, she always looks great after a Jen palette cleanser.
I mean, that's fair.
But for this one, yeah, she was given tasks, but they were either extremely tedious or super short. Here's my thought process. If I were going to write this and she had to become a god, I would play on the old Greek mythology and have 12 trials, because that's what Hercules had. Hercules had 12 trials. And so that would be a cute little, he did the thing, now you do the thing. In the Hercules, the movie, it's not listed out as 12 trials, but a lot of them are referenced. You know, the Hydra flight, but also when he's being drawn with a lion's mane, which is Scar and is hilarious, but that's a nod to the Nemean lion. There's a bunch of other ones that get nodded too.
Yeah, they fit them in there through little nods.
And so if she had these trials, you don't really understand, why do the gods care so much about this random woman? What are you doing? And so I thought that would have been better. It's an attempt at Greek storytelling, but not a very good one.
No, not at all.
So, meh.
Which is frustrating.
Meh.
Yeah, meh. I want it to be good. I like Meg's character. Like we said, like Hercules is such a good film. And you do have, like you said, so much to pull on with Greek mythology. But yeah, whiplash is my word for this book. Just the constant whiplash back and forth. And I think you noticed and made the point, all the characters are female. Like these are all the female characters. It's all the female leads for the books. So you're obviously trying to target a specific population of people. But why are the messages that you're sending them not good?
Yeah.
Be more aware of what you're trying to send them.
These are teenagers. They're impressionable still.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, adults can be impressionable, but you know.
Yeah.
One question for the author. I would be curious what her favorite Greek myth is. And I think depending what it is, because it feels like you had a little Hades and Persephone, you had a little nods to like some of the Zeus ones, and then you have some Orpheus at the end where it's like, oh, you don't turn around.
Yeah.
So it seems like she has, at least maybe in 9th grade, read that book of Greek mythology that we all had to read.
Yeah.
I would be curious what her thoughts there would be.
Yeah. Mine would be going back to the music. Have you played an instrument? Because if you have, you're insulting everybody.
Do you appreciate music, period? Have you heard it before?
Yeah. Did you not listen to the Hercules soundtrack and say, I have to do justice to this?
Have you ever seen a symphony?
Yeah, exactly. Did you pull up a video of someone playing a flute and just watch them?
No.
No, I don't think you did. And if you did,
do it again.
Then your ability to translate it is bad.
Don't do musical characters. We all have our weaknesses, it's fair, but
oh boy.
Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes I read a book and the character is like a code breaker or a hacker or something, and I'm like, I'm wondering how loudly all our IT friends are screaming right now.
Yes.
It's that, but music. Rating, I would give it running out of time out of 10, because it feels like she was running out of time and had to write really fast. And I don't know, I'm wondering if Jen Calonita just does not have the speed writing thing, and so maybe it's a good thing that she has so much time between this book and Suddenly Super, and then Suddenly Super and whatever the heck her 5th book is.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful for her, because once again, if I compare this to Liz's worst book, which is Beauty and the Beast, where I feel like she takes all the characters out of context and it's whatever, and then I look at this book, I would take Beauty and the Beast over this book.
Oof, yeah.
How do you do that, Jen? That's talent.
Yeah.
It's a rough time for everyone.
It is. I would give it 1 orchid petals that could summon a god out of 3.
You don't even get the full flower. We just want help. Save us.
Please. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Getting stuck in the underworld out of 10. Read again? No.
Nope.
Which sucks, because the cover is really pretty. Does someone just do the artwork? Do they just sell the little artwork of the covers? Because I would take that. I would love to have this as a little poster, all of my favorite cover arts. But the book itself, no.
No.
Favorite of the series so far, Cinderella or Mulan. It really just depends on my mood.
Yeah, I think if you want a love story, Cinderella, because we did just fangirl over Cinderella and the prince so hard. But if you're talking like adventure story, like this, literally Mulan went to the same equivalent of an underworld.
And it was so much better.
And it was so much better done.
So yeah, it just depends on my mood. Whatever Elizabeth Lim is writing, I guess. We'll see what happens when we get to Pinocchio, because I actually don't like Pinocchio. But she's writing the book, so I might.
Who knows? I agree. It's one of those two. I don't think any of the rest of them stand out. I think Aurora was our favorite one for a while. Oddly, the prince was the redeeming factor in it.
Philip, pretty great, yeah.
Philip was great in that one.
But have you read this book? What's your favorite Greek myth? Do you have any book recommendations for us? Tell us all about it in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit like, and if you're enjoying yourself, hit subscribe for more. Thank you for exploring Go the Distance with us. Join us next time when we'll be covering The Name of the Rose by Umbertino Eco. I'm Sam Reiner.
And this was a sick Caitlin.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time. Escape With Me Book Club is a Lunar Skulk production. Check us out on TikTok or Instagram to keep up to date with us. Lunar_SKULK.